Here's POV. The silence embraced the entire forest after Severus told Alejandro that my mate with him was fake. The silence was as if the calm before the storm. I could see Alejandro's furious face. His eyes were filled with the intent to kill. But at the same time, he also exuded this sense of sadness from those eyes of him. As if the heaven and earth had befallen him. He remained unmoving as he slowly stared at me. It was as if he believed what Severus had told him. That he was fake. What? He pleaded with me. My acquiescence affirmed the matter. I felt pity for him. I felt my heart tearing apart as I saw how he felt towards our bond. I wanted to talk to him but Severus glared at me. I felt a little annoyed towards Severus as he restricted me from getting closer to Alejandro. But I could not do anything as he held me incapable of shaking him off. Let me go. You. I wanted to scold him but he had begun to shout at Alejandro. I felt he was just saying those words again so he could provoke Alejandro. Now that you know the truth. Let Hirre go and don't bother her. You are not her mate anymore. Severus growled in his loudest. His words were sharp and they pierced even the heart of this pitied Alejandro. I bit my lower lip as I heard those words from Severus. I wanted to stop him but suddenly, Alejandro had begun to scream in his wildest, clutching his hair tightly. Arg! Forcing himself to vent his anger towards himself, he just kept on growling as he could. I could not bear the pain that I felt towards him. I was worried about him, thinking that he might lose himself in the wild. My hands were shaking uncontrollably as I saw him in that situation. Because even I was in his pack before, I did not see him acting like that. Here. What will we do? Harsha was worried inside me. We both knew that even though he was not our real mate, he had a part in our hearts that he filled for 3 years. That was something too hard to ignore. Don't worry. I will help him to calm down, I responded to my wolf. After which, I forcefully retracted my hand away from Severus and managed to finally break free. Calm down, Alejandro. I stretched my arms as I made a couple of steps toward Alejandro. But before I made another step closer, Severus held my hand tightly to halt me. Let him go. Severus spoke coldly. I was upset when he did that. I grabbed his arm and tried to take it away from my hand with all the strength I got. Though, of course, I failed since his strength was far superior than mine. Can you please stop restricting me? I can handle my own matter and you are not the one to decide what I want to do. Helpless, I growled at him with a grim expression. Finally, I had reached the peak of my frustration. And I have the strength to say those words to him now. But to my yet another frustration, he just shook his head as he kept on holding my left hand. Are you even listening? I asked him with a deadly stare. My cold expression went grimmer. I gave him my fiercest look so he would be forced to believe me. And then I added, trying my hardest to break free, let me go. Here. Let's go. Alejandro just cast you a spell. That's why you still cared for him. He replied seriously. He tried to make me believe that Alejandro was just using black magic to get my attention. As if his words were the truth itself and must comply to them. After a moment, he averted his gaze away from me and glared at Alejandro before he spoke again. He may hurt you. Here. Please stay away from him. As Severus threw ill words toward Alejandro, I saw from my peripheral vision that Alejandro buried his head with his hand. And then he replied, "No. I can't ever do that. I'm not the kind of man who will use black magic to win over a woman's heart." He shifted his gaze to me before he added, "And I don't want to hurt you, here. I know you know it well too." I felt the sincerity from his words. And my heart shook and ached in pity, seeing him filled with grief. I really wanted to go and comfort him with my hands now. I glared at Severus again. Fortunately, he let me go from his grip this time. I stepped closer to Alejandro and slowly held his hands that were still clutching his hair. He slowly removed his hand and his face was revealed. Our eyes met again and I saw tiny tears dripping down his cheeks. "Here," Severus scolded me, but I ignored him. Alejandro needed me and my comfort made him calm down. "Alejandro. I'm here. Please. Don't hurt yourself anymore." I embraced him like how I hugged him before, putting his head on my chest. I felt his body shaking, probably because of the heat of my body that he felt again. At first, Alejandro did not move and he let me embrace him. But after a few moments, he slowly crossed his muscular arms around my waist. "Thank you, here," he muttered with a voice low but filled with joy. I nodded my head in response while tapping his back a few times. Severus POV. I found myself lost for words as I saw Hirre, my mate, with his fake fated mate. My hands were shaking uncontrollably because of the jealousy I currently felt. Demos, my wolf, was as angry as I was, seeing our mate hugging another man. He wanted to come out to tear Alejandro apart. As much as I wanted to kill that bastard, I must calm myself down and refrain from my anger. I must not let my guard down, act recklessly. I needed to win on my own. I did not want to let these things happen, but I needed to act like a true prince. "Here, I told you. Stay away from him. Or else I will pull you out of his sight." I spoke coldly at Hirre, my voice filled with anger. Even though I didn't want to threaten her badly, this was the only thing that I thought I could do for her to stop making anything stupid. Just how stubborn could she become, by the way? Hirre stepped away from Alejandro as she turned to face me instead. Her cold and deadly stare made my spine shiver. I thought I was in the North Pole when she crossed her arms on her chest and gave off a chilling aura. "Now, I know who you really are. You are nothing but like another perverted man. You are just a prince in name, but your F to the power of seeking nature is far from being a prince." She threw ill words toward me. I could feel the anger she put against me. "Here. I'm so sorry. But I'm just saying the truth. He just used black magic to control you. He is just playing the victim here. So please wake up. I really meant to harm." I tried to explain, but she just simply glared at me in response. I was in the bad zone and I needed to do things right. I needed to calm her down first. But how? She was now in her madness. Hirre then shook her head slowly before she finally retorted, "You know. You are disgusting, you are just using your power to threaten us. Your attitude is much more fake than my bond with him." Her words stung me like they were needles with poison. I couldn't help knitting my eyebrows in response. I really felt the anger inside her because of his bastard fake mate. I clenched my hands into fists to control myself. I needed to calm myself so I could protect her from Alejandro. "Here." And the bastard Alejandro spoke as he stared at Hirre with those damned annoying puppy eyes. I thought that he was just playing this dramatic scene to prove to Hirre that he was the victim here. Trust me, Hirre, I did not use any black magic to you. I also don't know who might do that to you. But I'm willing to investigate who is responsible for this. Alejandro spoke, catching the attention of Hirre again. This bastard. Demos angrily growled inside me. He really wanted to get out now to give Alejandro his rightful punishment. But before I let Demos go out of control. Stop that, Alejandro. Get the hell out of here and don't dare to bother us ever again. I ordered Alejandro to get out of our sight. I was the prince and he needed to follow my orders no matter what. I made sure to raise my voice and fill it with authority so that he wouldn't dare to disobey me. But it appeared that my effort was just in vain when Hirre stood firmly to protect him and replied, Severus, do you think you look good when using the power of being the prince to drive someone away? Her words stung my heart again. I could see the anger in the knitted eyebrows she wore on her face. I'm just protecting you, Hirre. So I'm telling him to go out of here. I retorted and growled coldly. But Hirre got closer to Alejandro again, taking me by yet another surprise. Hirre. What the hell are you trying to do? I asked her as I saw them being together. You want to drive him away, right? She asked me meaningfully as she held Alejandro's hand. I glared at her stubbornness as I got what she meant. Hirre, stop what you are thinking, I warned her. So? I'll go with him. She replied nonchalantly. She then rolled her eyes before she turned around and started walking away from me. Arg. I could only clench my teeth as I saw the two of them leaving. Here's POV. Panned. Alejandro and I ran swiftly into the woods. Alejandro was silent the entire time as we reached the roadside where our car was located. When we took a few moments of rest, he turned to stare at me. I saw tears in his eyes, but this time, there was a little smile on his lips. Still, I could feel the pain he still felt at that moment. Harsha, you. What? Never mind. I was going to ask Harsha to contact his wolf. That maybe that way, it would make it less painful for him. But better not to do that, it wouldn't be right. Here. Thank you. Alejandro suddenly spoke, as he wore a sweet smile this time. I nodded my head in response and gave him a smile. But I couldn't deny the fact that I was still reluctant of talking to him, especially now that I recalled our bad past. That said, I retracted my gaze and didn't give him much attention. Don't think too much about it, get in the car. I patted his shoulder, signaling him to get in the car. But he was instantly shocked and looked at me in disbelief and asked, This car? Is it yours? That prince gave it to you? Damn it. I completely forgot how conspicuous this luxury car was. He still didn't know that I now had a billion-dollar fortune. But it was better not to tell it to him, one couldn't receive so many shocks in such a short time. Just forget about it and leave first. Or he'll catch up. I replied calmly. Oh, yeah. Let's get out of this place first, he said as he got in the car without hesitation and sat in the passenger seat. I also got in the car and sat on the driver's seat. We headed in the direction of the human city. I didn't start our conversation and our road trip seemed so awkward. But that was until he started the conversation first. Hirre. Are we really not real mates? He suddenly asked, which made me slow down the car. Sorry, what's that again? I replied as turned to look at him. Of course, I heard what he asked me. And I expected him to ask me that issue. I wanted to answer him, but even I didn't know yet if we were not the real mate or not. And nothing. I just want to ask, where are we going to go? He replied as he forced out a smile. As if he could sense my evasion, he gentlemanly changed to an unimportant question. I sped up the car again and replied, a club, my friend's club. I was not lying either, was I? The person who ran the club now was Ken. So, it was his as well. After a good while, we finally arrived at the club. I parked in my reserved space and asked Alejandro to get out first. But shortly after he got off the car, "How dare you come?" Ken's violent voice rang out from outside the car. Hell no. Ken was sure to attack Alejandro. I quickly got out of the car and tried to stop this Ken. No. But Ken, who had lost his mind, saw me coming out from behind Alejandro's back and immediately pulled me away without saying a word, not giving me a chance to speak at all. Ken. It was me who brought him here, I shouted at him as I struggled. As expected, he quickly stopped in his tracks. Ken looked at me with an incredulous face and asked, full of doubts, "Why are you at that? Alejandro? I thought you were." Ken asked as he stuttered. But before he could finish his words, I pinched him to his flank, forcefully stopping his furious words. "Yes, he is my ex-fated mate. And we need to talk about something important, so don't ask for more," I replied to make Ken stop thinking about our past relationships. But he wanted to say something else, but I didn't have the time now to take care of him. So I had to interrupt him as I said, "Well, I'll be fine." Perhaps my firm attitude made him believe me, and he finally let go of the hand that was holding me. But he still didn't give up trying to persuade me. "So," he said, "here, maybe the prince will get mad if he knows this. That day. Don't even mention that bast." "The prince?" I replied as I rolled my eyes. I didn't wait for his response as I headed into the club and beckoned him to come over. "Let's go to the VIP room first." Ken walked first and followed behind me. I turned around to look behind and I saw Alejandro still standing not too far away. "Alejandro." I called the attention of Alejandro. "Should I come as well?" he replied as he smiled bitterly and scratched his cheek with his forefinger. I could see that he was shy and reluctant. "Of course. Just hurry up and come over," I responded as I turned around and started walking in. I could sense that Alejandro followed behind me. We followed Ken to a certain room we entered. Ken ordered some drinks and we sat on the couch. "Here." Ken approached his mouth near my ears. But I chose to ignore him. I could tell that he was still worried that Alejandro would bully me. "Ken, please. I want to talk with him alone," I replied as I sighed deeply. Ken seemed to understand what I felt as he finally nodded his head and complied. He walked out and left me inside the VIP room with Alejandro. When Ken was gone, I shifted my gaze at Alejandro. I immediately noticed some dried tears on his cheek. "Alejandro. I believe in you. I know you can't do such vile deeds like using black magic for you to gain me." I spoke to him, which made him look at me with surprise. His previous sad eyes became lively like before. It glowed the moment he heard me. "Thank you here. Thank you for believing me," he replied as he held my hands and gave me a bright smile. I felt awkward about his action though. I slowly moved my hands away from him to avoid something to happen between us. I took a deep breath before speaking again. Sigh, I believe you, but it doesn't mean that we can still be together. You cheated on me. That's why our relationship is already over. Are you still mad at me? He asked me in response. His eyes were getting teary as he looked at me directly. For now, not much. I briefly replied, and thought it was real. He nodded his head and he felt my true nature. I was a kind woman, but I honor my words. I had a principle for everything. To turn our conversation, I went directly toward my purpose. I needed to investigate our bond. It might be so awkward to talk about past feelings, but I needed it to answer everything. Alejandro, we are not here to talk about that. I'm here to ask you about your feelings towards me after our first meeting. I asked him. Actually, when I saw you before the banquet, I fell for you. My wolf is also pretty sure that you are my mate. This can't be wrong, can it? He replied. His reaction was exactly the same as when I first found out about the fake bond between us. I believe him even more. It really wasn't him. If it wasn't him, then who could it be? Right or wrong, it's all about evidence. I replied. Since we met for the first time and created mate bond, it means that if there really is a spell, it was done by someone close to us. To be honest, I trust my family members. But you. I didn't say more so as not to hurt him. But reality was that we were both suspecting the same people. Okay, I will check it out. He responded. But soon, he began to care about me, just like before. What about you? Do you have a place to go? Will the prince give you a hard time? How about you? I'll go home. I knew he wanted to take me away. Maybe he thought that if I went back to his pack, we could go back to the old days when we still loved each other. But it was not going to happen. I will go home and ask my uncle about the spell. Don't worry, nothing will happen to Severus. I took a moment of pause before I added, he's actually a gentleman. Here's POV. Don't hesitate, here, Harsha urged me for the 5th time, but I still hesitated to dial the number on the phone in my hand. Alejandro had been gone for almost an hour now. And I was intending to text Severus to tell him I was going back home. But I didn't want to contact him first, which would mean I was giving up telling him that. Oh well. I'd better call the king, then Severus will naturally know. I thought of that, so I dialed King Ansel's number. Yes, here? King Ansel immediately answered as he spoke from the other line. I took a deep breath before I answered him. King Ansel, I want to tell you that I want to go back to my pack for a while. Why? How about your exam? Did Severus bully you? King Ansel asked me. From his tone of voice, I knew he was worried about me. No. No one is bullying me. I have something important to do. But I'll come back again later before the examination, I replied. I didn't tell him about my real intention. I wanted to keep it a secret for a while. Okay. If anyone is bullying you, make sure you tell me that, alright? He said. King Ansel really cared about me and it felt so good to hear that. I subconsciously smiled as I replied. Of course, I'll be sure to tell you. So, have a good trip, he replied, which became my relief. I hung up the phone as I turned to look the other way and said, Excuse me? Ken came through the door the moment I called him. What's now? he asked as he picked up the wine on the table and poured wine to the glass beside it. He picked up the glass of wine and gave it to me. "Nah, I'm good," but I simply rejected the offer as I replied bitterly. I turned serious before I added, "But, Ken, I need your help." I asked him, hoping that he would respond to me with yes. Fortunately, Ken smiled and I caught what was the meaning of this. Severus POV. I was in the living room, waiting for Hirre to come back. I needed to ask her clearly why she did those stupidities to me. I was drinking my red wine as I kept counting the hours. If today, she still dares not come back, I'll go and buy all those human hotels. Let her have no place to stay. I swear, I will do it. I spoke, getting all sober and clear-headed. Severus, you forget that she is the owner of those hotels. Elias always reminds me at inopportune times. Is that the point? She? Why was she still defending that bastard? I could not help myself not to think about the things that happened in the woods. I should have just locked her up in the house. But I didn't have the chance to finish my sentence when suddenly, knock, knock, knock. There was a knock at the door. My heart beat wildly as I heard someone outside the door. I felt something different though, neither madness nor excitement. Look, she's back. Gamma Elias quickly opened the door hoping that Hirre would be that. However, what obstructed our sight wasn't Hirre. I knitted my eyebrows as I saw a man approaching instead. A few maids were following behind him. They entered when Gamma Elias let them in. They greeted me as they entered. I wandered my eyes but I could not see Hirre among them. "Why are you here? Where is Hirre?" I asked. It was Ken who had just come and I wasn't at all happy when he came instead of Hirre. But they didn't reply. Instead, they walked onwards and ignored me. "Wait," I bellowed. A bad feeling filled my chest as they tried to walk towards Hirre's room. I'm sorry to disturb you, but we need to hurry. I'm here to pack Hirre's things. She is moving out for a while." Ken replied directly. I felt he was serious about the tone of his words. What? Did he know what he was talking about? Where was she moving to? To that damn club or just move back to Lionheart Pack? I couldn't control my anger at the thought of her leaving my side. Swish. I stood quickly and angrily. I could not help myself not to growl louder than I could. "No. You can't bring her belongings out of my house." Severus POV. I waited for her all night. And this was what I waited for? It got me completely mad the moment I learned that he would pick up Hirre's things. But in contrast, Ken stood there completely unfazed even after seeing me enraged. It seemed like he wasn't afraid of my anger at all. I thought he was ready for what reaction would I have after I heard that Hirre chose to move out. I glared at him coldly as I asked, "Who ordered you to do this?" But Ken simply gave me a nonchalant smile and stared at me. "Pardon, Mr. Prince, but Hirre told us to do this. We were just following my boss's order," Ken replied, which made me lose my temper again. "Send them away." Deimos growled inside me. I clenched my hands into fists as I could not help myself to calm down for a moment. "Your Highness, please understand my work." Ken spoke again with a slight smile. His hypocritical look made me even angrier. "No W." I was just about to say no back to him. However, my phone suddenly rung, halting what I wanted to say. I did not have time nor the urge to answer it, but I saw my father's name on my phone screen. I frowned subconsciously as I answered the phone call. "Father, I am now." I wanted to say that I was busy. But before I could finish my words, he suddenly cut in to interrupt me. "Severus, let them in. Don't cause any trouble." Clearly, my father knew everything that would happen today. I looked at Ken as I tried to calm down, but his calm smile made me even angrier. All of them. They were trying to separate me from my mate. "Father, I was ready to tell my father how much I loved Hirre and that I couldn't let her go. But his next words left me speechless. Hirre told me that she was confused about the things that happened between both of you. I was a little bit shocked as I heard my father. I calmed myself and took a deep breath and kept on leaning my ears to him. "Severus, I want to tell you that love is not easy to get. You need to learn how to respect Hirre." I was surprised by what my father told me. I felt embarrassed about myself as I heard my father scold me. But respect? Didn't I show enough respect for her? I was afraid she would be stressed about living with me and specifically asked Elias and Leo to live in my house together. I hadn't even marked her until now. I gave her the best education and training I could, I gave her everything I could give, and that was not love? "Let her go," my father said, which gave me a grim expression. "No, father. Here is my mate and I can't let her go." I naturally refused. There was no way on earth I would let go of her. Sigh. I know. But she promised that she will come back for the exam. So let her go for the meantime. Or, do you want me to command you? My father's voice suddenly carried the majestic tone that only belonged to a king. I was held helpless as I didn't have any choice but to permit Ken to get Hirre's things. In the end, I clicked my tongue dejectedly as I turned to look at Ken and said, "Do what you want." I took a moment of pause before I added, "Anyway, please take care of my mate." I let them be, but my wolf could not accept that Hirre would go away from our sight. That was something I couldn't do anything about though. "Of course, she's my friend," Ken replied with a nonchalant smile as he turned around and headed to Hirre's room. That bastard. At this point, he was showing off his closeness to Hirre to me, right? Damn it. It's all your fault. You should have marked her a long time ago. She would have never go away from us. Deimos blamed me for this. But yes, Deimos had a point, however, it was not too late to fix this. Here's POV. After sending Ken to Severus' house to get my belongings, I went back to my pack to meet my grandpa and uncle. "Dr. Lionheart, what's now?" My uncle asked the witch doctor that my grandfather's doctor examined me. He was a trusted and very well-known witch. "Mr. Lucio, Hirre's body now has a black magic." Mr. Lionheart replied, which made us feel surprised. He sat on the chair and spoke again, but she was not a subject for the magic attack. She was just involved with this. Dr. Lionheart's words made us frown in wonder what was the meaning of that. Our eyes were telling it that we wanted him to go on and continue with his words. "Can you please clarify it all, doctor?" Finally, my grandfather asked. All of us had the same question inside our heads though. And hearing his question, the doctor nodded his head in response. "This black magic is called moonbond. The person who may be inflicted with this magic will have fake bond with the first person that they fall in love with. Only when the real mate appears, it will be shaken. Until then there is no breakthrough." The moment I heard the explanation from the doctor, The first thing that entered my mind was Alejandro. Fall in love with? So Alejandro really loved me, he fell in love with me from the first moment he saw me, it wasn't a fake. This answer made me feel comfortable, and at least it proved that my 3-year relationship with him was not a sham. But it also meant, as I thought, that the people around him, who wanted to harm him. So you mean Alejandro was the first one who was enchanted by this magic? I asked. Yes, this kind of magic, only witches. The doctor replied. But he didn't go on. So how can I lift it? I asked as I thought about the antidote of this magic. The doctor suddenly stopped talking. He took a deep breath as he heard me asking for the antidote. Lionheart, tell the truth. What is the best solution for this problem? My grandfather suddenly asked the doctor impatiently. Sorry, but it is dangerous to cast it away. The doctor replied, and every one of us suddenly turned silent. Lionheart, can you please tell us the best way to cast off that magic from here? My grandfather asked again as he saw me suddenly turn silent. Yes. The doctor briefly replied, and it really gave me a glance of hope. But his second sentence made me look more pale. Death. Once one of the person under the moonbound magic found his/her real mate and get a real mate bond, the other one will die. Then the fake one will naturally never exist. I was shocked as I heard the doctor. My heart skipped a beat as I felt my knees shaking. Death? Wasn't that too? Here's POV. In the next day the Tyranny Pack. Here, what's now? Did you find something you needed? Sandra, my cousin, asked as she sat beside me. We were almost 2 hours in the massive library, but I only read a forbidden book about magic. Yeah. This book of morgue matched the things that Dr. Lionheart said to me. I said while continuing to read the contents. So what did you find out? Sandra added as she looked at me, waiting for me to reply. This book said that once one of us is marked by our real mate, the other's power will be greatly reduced, its power, and may even die. Sandra was shocked at what I said. She could not believe that this moonbound magic turned everything into critical. Oh my God! Is this serious? She asked, widened her eyes. I nodded my head as I responded. Actually, when Severus tried to mark me, Alejandro almost died because of that. I put down the book and held Sandra's hand. Sandra, I'm afraid of that. I felt pity for Alejandro. We're just a victim here, and I don't want to put him in his early death. I added this because I was really worried about the outcome that might happen next. Don't worry here. If there's a curse, then there is also a way how to cast it out. Just believe in our goddess. Sandra replied as she tapped my hand. After a long hour that we spent in the library, Sandra told me that she would be going back home. Here, I'm going back home because, after that, I'll going straight to the training ground. You know, I need to prepare for the training. Sandra told me. I'll go with you since I get the information I needed, I replied, and we both went back home because of training. We entered our car. She was the driver and I sat beside her. So what is your plan now? Sandra asked me, which made me feel confused. Actually, I wanted to tell everything to Alejandro as soon as possible. But for now, I wanted to let the Dr. Lionheart check him. I replied. I think you're right. You need to wait until the result come. She added, and I nodded my head in agreement. I hope there's a way, Sandra said, and I bit my lip as I thought the same as her. Author's POV. The dim color of the lampshade was the only light that enlightened the entire room. The silence filled the room and Alejandro was sleeping on his bed. For a long time that he spent his life outside his pack, looking for Hirre, and now he struggles with another problem. And it made him to sleep uneasy tonight. Suddenly, the door opened slowly. In the darkness, a shadow of a woman appeared. It walking slowly toward Alejandro's bed. The light of the lamp struck on the face of a familiar woman. She was Claire. She halted her steps on the other side of the bed. She grinned as she saw his beloved Alejandro sleeping. Her eyes were twinkled as she stared at Alejandro's body. She was wearing her 90s. Her sexy figure was exposed, matched with her red lipstick. "I will own you again this night, my Alejandro," she muttered as she slowly moved toward the bed. Her scent was scattered around the room, seeming like she prepared this night. She climbed the bed and she kept on staring at Alejandro's face. Suddenly, she bent her upper body to get closer to Alejandro. She used her long fingernails to touch the soft kissable lips of Alejandro. "I'm your mate, Alejandro. I am your true Luna," she muttered as she slowly put her fingers down to Alejandro's chest. "I'm perfectly good for you, not that bitch. I'm much hotter than her. I am the only woman that made you moan, right, Alejandro?" she added while biting her lower lip. She unbuttoned the polo shirt of her man while trying to take out his pant of Alejandro slowly. She wanted to use her charisma tonight while Alejandro was sleeping deeply. However, Claire's plan was ruined when Alejandro opened his eyes. Claire halted what she doing and she got shocked when she saw Alejandro looking at her. She departed her body away from Alejandro. Her throat was getting dry because of this. But to her surprise, Alejandro did not curse her. "Alejandro?" Claire suddenly spoke, waiting for the reaction that Alejandro might do to her. Opposite of what Claire thinking, Alejandro touched her face. His warm palm made Claire feel better. "Claire, you are here," Alejandro muttered, which made Claire smile. "I'm sorry, I came here without your permission," Claire said while moving her body toward Alejandro again. "Don't worry, it's okay. Anyway, I heard you. I'm so sorry too. Actually, I wish too that you are my mate," Alejandro muttered while he caressed his cheeks of Claire. "Really?" Claire asked happily. Her cheeks were getting red as she heard those sweet words from Alejandro. But, here was my real mate. There's nothing I can do about it." Alejandro gave her a sweet smile which made Claire feel she was a good catch that fit for the man that she was obsessed with. Don't worry. Your bond with that bitch is fake. And I'm your real mate," Claire added happily. Alejandro quickly sat on his bed as he heard Claire. He asked, while showing surprise on his face, "Really? But how can I undo our fake bond?" Claire grinned as she thought that Alejandro was ready to surrender his love for Hirre for her. "Give me your mark, Alejandro, and everything will be fine," Claire replied, taking away the hair on her front, and showing her neck to Alejandro. Alejandro smiled and he moved his fingers on the neck of Claire. He gave Claire a good sensation. "Aha, yes. Touch me. Own me." Claire was ready to close her eyes to wait for Alejandro's mark. Suddenly, Alejandro moved and stood immediately. He brought Claire to the wall and pinned her to it. Claire smirked as she thought that this night, she'd succeed in her plan. Finally. You are mine. But suddenly, Alejandro's eyes get furious because of the darkness. Ah! And instead of a sweet mark, Alejandro choked her tightly and she could not breathe. Alejandro. Claire could not speak very well as Alejandro choked her to death. She held Alejandro's arms to stop him from doing that. But Alejandro was too strong and Claire's eyes were begging to stop. I knew it was you, bitch. Alejandro suddenly shouted and his teeth were gritted tightly. Claire widened her eyes as she saw how furious Alejandro was. Here's POV. I came home early after a hard training. I practiced my new skill on Tyranny's training ground with Sandra. And I was surprised as I entered our living room. Uncle Lucio and Severus were there sitting together, waiting for me. Mississippi. Uncle Lucio stood and greeted me. I halted my steps, my bodyguard was standing behind me. They were all waiting for my command. As if ready to go to war. However, Severus stayed calm and he kept on sitting on the couch. Uncle Lucio glared at my bodyguards. Men, that's not how men give respect to the prince. Uncle Lucio reprimanded my guard. I was a little upset as I saw Severus raised his eyebrows. That man. He always uses his name as a prince to manipulate others. I thought to Severus as I gritted my teeth inwardly. But knowing that I couldn't curse him aloud, I just rolled my eyes at him. But he's the prince. Harsha said, favoring him. Well, there was nothing wrong with that. I had to get my soldiers drop their defenses. I continued walking toward Uncle and Severus. As I got closer, I crossed my arms on my chest and posed in front of Severus. Why are you here, Prince? I made sure to emphasize my word to show his position as a prince as I hoped that he would get annoyed with me as well. But in contrast, he did not speak and just stay nonchalant. Uncle, can we talk privately? To my frustration, Severus didn't answer me but instead, he suddenly talked to Uncle. I was surprised by his attitude though. What on earth did happen that this man became so polite all of a sudden? Sure, Uncle Lucio responded with a smile. I was annoyed by the fact that they went out with my guard and Sandra without them telling me anything. Are they going to leave me here with this man? I couldn't help but frown about it. Here, I miss Demos. Harsha suddenly spoke within me with her flirty attitude, but she was at the wrong time because I was still mad. I did not answer my wolf and I kept on glaring at Severus. Have a seat. Severus offered me a seat as he stood and pointed at the couch near him. How funny of him, this was my house. Did I even need him to ask me to sit down? Why are you here? I asked again as I rejected the offer and gave him my fiercest look. However, he simply nodded his head, waiting for me to accept his offer. Severus POV. Severus, are you really the real prince? Why can't you get here immediately as your own? Look, we can't even contact her wolf anymore because of you. Demos was really mad at me. He was still growling inside me and his voice made my head hurt. Keep silent, Demos. Can't you see what I'm doing? I'm doing everything I can do just to gain her forgiveness. Don't worry, I will say sorry to her later for everything I have done, I growled back. Of course, I didn't show to Hirre that I was a little annoyed while talking with my wolf. So do it. Demos growled again and I wanted to shut him up. Hirre, I'm here to say sorry. I lowered my pride and bravely asked for her forgiveness. But before she could reply, her phone suddenly rang. She picked the phone up and a sweet smile appeared on his lips. She answered the phone call and said, "Alejandro?" Those words of "here," however, made my blood boil again. They were really back in touch. "See? It's all too late." Deimos kept ranting. "Shut up. Listen to what he has to say," I ordered. "Are you okay? What's your condition now?" He asked that bastard, and I clenched my hand into a fist as I tried to control my anger. I kept on listening to their conversation, and it was really the hardest thing to bear in my entire life. Even though I did not hear Alejandro's voice, with how he reacted, it made me feel like I was losing my rationality. That Alejandro was really trying to get on my bad side. I could not imagine how on earth was this thing happening to Hirre. Why the hell was she putting so much care to Alejandro even though I was her mate? Was it because of the black magic? "Okay. I'll come to your house right away." Her words completely made my heart explode in anger. I felt like I could not stand this feeling anymore, as I might start destroying things. Snap. Couldn't handle it anymore. I quickly stood up and grabbed Hirre's phone away from her. Without a second thought, I threw it crashing on the floor. I glared at Hirre and I saw how shocked she was by my action. "Why you?" She wanted to scold me, but before she could say a word, I grabbed her body and pinned her down to the sofa. Hirre indignantly forced me to push away from her body, but with my strength against her, she couldn't do a thing at all. This time, I would definitely teach her a lesson. I was not the kind of man that would allow my mate talking sweetly with another bastard. Never. Woo. That said, I forced my way to bite her lips softly. And since she wanted to escape from my grasp, I tried my best to lock her into my arms. I could not let her go today. I needed to mark her so no one would own her other than me. She was so soft and smelled so good. She was mine alone. Mine. I grabbed her clothes and I tried to pull them off. I was at the peak of my anger and I could not control myself. I was ready to mark her. You. Let go of me." Hirre avoided her lips as she spoke indignantly. And seeing that she was trying to break free, I used more strength to suppress her body even though she was in a difficult situation. I could not let her go since I was now ready to give her my mark. "No. Please." She screamed out aloud. Her eyes were both watery. I saw from her eyes that she was begging me to let her go. Tiny drops of tears began to pour out from her eyes. I could sense her extreme denial, that she didn't want to be marked by me. I stopped for a moment as glared into her eyes. I couldn't help wearing frown as I asked coldly, "Why?" "Her body, her wolf. There is no place where she did not desire me, but why was she resisting me this much?" "He will die," she said, trembling in her voice. "He? Which he? The fucking fake mate?" I was upset because of her nonsense reason. How could I accept such a ridiculous reason? Did she want that man to dominate my mate forever? Don't even dream. I am your mate now. Hirre. You just belong to me and me alone. I can mark you anytime I want. I retorted coldly. "No. Not now," she replied with her voice and body shuddering. "Because then, he will die of sadness? What of it? If he die because of this, then die. I don't give a damn to him at all." I responded furiously, my eye shifted to that of a wolf's. But it seemed like she did not care about me or my feelings. After throwing my words to her, I continued what I was doing to her, but Hirre was still struggling. No. Her voice was full of resistance, but this time I wasn't going to respect her anymore. Until she. I will die with him, she replied, and I suddenly stopped kissing her. Even my wolf was shocked at what he heard. What did she just say? She was going to die for that man. Here's POV. I jumped quickly out of the coach when Severus moved his body away from me. I could see how shocked he was from what I just said. Even my wolf was shocked and could not believe what I said recently. Now that I was in the safe distance, I quickly fixed myself. I narrowed my eyes in worry, afraid that that guy would do something lewd to me again. Here, is that true? Harsha asked me with a questioning tone. I could not reply though, since I just said it for Severus to stop harassing me. But I also believed that I was not wrong by saying that. Only words like this can make him stop that crazy behavior. I stood quickly to walk out. Wait. When I reached the doorway, he still wouldn't give up calling out to me. It looked like I had to be more direct. I halted my steps and turned to look behind me. I saw Severus in his unexplained state. Is mating the only thing in your life, huh? I asked him coldly as I looked at him directly in the eyes. I felt upset about how he treated me. However, he just sat on the couch, and seemed like nothing happened again between us. Why did you suddenly turn silent? Was your plan did not work? I asked again with a nonchalant tone. Still, Severus did not look at me. He was silent, and it seemed like he was deep in his thoughts. And it made me frown with a dark expression when he just looked at me blankly after a good while. If you want to mate that badly, then go find another woman. I don't mind. I growled at Severus, trying to throw all my anger at him. But Harsha seemed like she didn't want what I was doing. And so, she growled at me from the inside. Here, enough that. How could you say such words to our mate? Harsha, I'm not the kind of woman who can easily threaten like this. You know me better, right? I don't want someone to control me even if he was a prince or my mate. I threw my words to Harsha. She turned taciturn and let me walk out. I shook my head as I walked again toward the door. I did not pay any more attention to the feelings that Severus might feel right now. I needed to walk out from this hellish place. And when I opened the door, I saw my security guards waiting for me from the outside. Miss, are you okay? They were all looking at me, observing my body. It's okay. Give me a phone, I ordered them. I had to get in touch with Alejandro quickly. Author's POV. Alejandro was standing in the middle of a dungeon. A dim old dean of the Moonchaser pack. In the middle of the dark room, Claire was there. Her arms and her feet were tied up with a silver chain. Her clothes were in a mess and her beauty was ruined with the makeup that scattered all over her face. Her makeup was blended with dirt and bruises, making it appear like she was no more than a slave. Alejandro, on the other hand, was still waiting for Hirre to call him back. The sound on the other end of the phone was too loud just now. Hirre must be in danger. With every passing second, he was looking at his phone. He was worried about Hirre and he wanted to find her. Are you worried about Hirre? Don't you get it? She doesn't belong to you. You are nothing to her. Claire spoke as she saw how Alejandro was longing for Hirre. Just what on earth did she see from Hirre? She was expecting too much from Alejandro even in the first place, and she knew that Hirre was just like a trash in the bin. There was nothing special on her. She was better, much better than that bitch in every way. Shut up. All I want to hear from you is the reason why you put magic to me and not that nonsense matter." Alejandro suddenly yelled at Claire, his voice cold and chilling. Even the way he looked at her was devoid of emotion, not even a trace of love nor care. Claire was stunned upon hearing the other party, her eyes watery and ready to tear up. She couldn't believe Alejandro was so resistant of her. "Nonsense? Do you think everything I've done for you is worthless?" Claire then responded. She looked at Alejandro with her eyes finally dripping tears. "Stop acting like this. Tell me why?" Alejandro growled back to Claire. His eyes were furiously glaring at Claire. "Do you never understand it until now? I love you, Alejandro. You are special to me," Claire replied, sobbing as she spoke. "Love? Is putting a curse onto me what you call love?" Alejandro asked back coldly. Claire glared at him. "And so," she replied with a scream, "it wasn't. It wasn't meant to be. Because of her. Because of Hirre, that's why I did that. She stole everything I want." Alejandro was shocked by what he heard, but he knew that there was little to no reason for him to believe her. So, with a much colder tone, Alejandro replied, "I warn you, don't use words like that to humiliate her again." After hearing those words of Alejandro, what Claire had felt wasn't guilt, but seething rage in her heart. Her expression couldn't be painted any more as she exclaimed indignantly in response, "She is the bitch. You are my everything. But that bitch stole you away from me." Claire screamed, as though she had already lost her reasoning. And Alejandro could not believe that Claire would stoop so low as to act that way. In the end, he just shook his head slowly in disbelief and sighed deeply. After a moment, he walked toward Claire. When he got closer, his eyes emitted a cold glint as though intending to give her harm. "No matter what is your reason, you better not hurt her again, or I can't guarantee what will happen," Alejandro uttered coldly, shocking Claire to the point that her watery eyes almost bulged out in shock. She couldn't believe that Alejandro hated her that much because of Hirre. But I'm your real mate," Claire sobbed as she spoke with that reason to fight for. She wanted attention from Alejandro. "Mate, look at the way you look now. If I can go back at that times when I saw you being bullied by the gangsters, I wish I did not save you," Alejandro said, and his fiercest eyes made Claire's eyes widened. But now her widened eyes and watery were without anger, only pain. Alejandro, regretting the best moment she had with him, was something that really hit her. "How can you?" But that was not the end, as Alejandro added, "You are not worthy to be saved." His last words made Claire hold back her breath and tears. Her heart was in so much pain that could not speak. She just stared at Alejandro. But shortly after, Claire suddenly began chuckling. Alejandro frowned by the sight of her, but soon, her chuckle turned into a mild laugh. That made him frown even more. Alejandro kept on watching Claire. He did not speak either. Right now, he could see and hear that mild laugh becoming louder and louder until, "Pwahahaha. I am the one who doesn't deserve to be alive. Ha 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 ha." Her laughter echoed loudly in the dungeon. She appeared like a mad woman who had long lost her sanity. Claire POV. 5 years ago. Arg. My voice was fading every time the Rouges hit me with their strong fist. Some were throwing stones and trying to mock me with their dirty tongue. And how funny to think that Rouges bullying me even though they were all out of the packs. Do you know why? Because I'm a hybrid offspring of a werewolf and a witch. Stinking witch. Go to hell. I was cursed to die every day. I did not have any strength to fight back even though I was 14 years old at that time. Because the hybrid like me was the lowest of the low. My mixed blood meant that I did not belong to other species. And the world I have was filled with war and chaos. Everyone around me fought against each other to be honored. My only strength was my mother. She was the only reason why I need to come alive even though this world was unfair. I needed to revenge for her because she was killed by my father's domestic violence. He always hurt my mom even in my front, and every single hit that my mother caught from the fist of my father leaves a scar on my heart. It has torn me into pieces every time my mother glanced at me, telling me that everything would be okay. It didn't get better, everything got worse. The man who beat my mother to death. My mother died, and no one cared, as if she had never come into this world. And after a few years after my mom died, my father died also. Many say that it was because of my mother who cursed my father to death. However, no one knows the truth behind that. Yes, I killed the damn man. Before my mom died, she told me that my power would be awakened at my age. I finally don't have to be that soft hybrid anymore, I have my own power. I pursued learning magic and spell. And the first trial I made was to kill the person I hate the most, my father. Thankfully, he died a very painful way. I'll never forget the way he looked at me, with fear in his eyes. It was the most pleasurable moment of my life. Now, I live my life alone. I was a girl who walked on my own looking for food to survive. I went to the forest where I could hunt. These rogues still think I am the little girl who will not resist. Ouch! I felt pain in my forehead. And immediately tapped it and I saw red liquid on my hand. Why are you here in our territory, bitch? A young man who seemed like a leader of the gang said. I saw his body filled with scars and I thought he was good at fighting. On how he stood and looked at me, I knew he was strong. I am looking for food, I replied. She is the daughter of a witch, one gangster said, muttering to his comrade. Really? I think so. Look at her food to the power of seeking face. What a bastard. A skinny man replied, and it made all men mock me. Boo-wah-ha-ha. Their laughter reminds me of my past. I clenched my hands into a fist as I closed my eyes. I didn't want to see them as their voices echoed inside me. Revenge. 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 The unknown voice calling my attention. It telling me to use my power to get rid of these bastards. I opened my eyes and glared at them. Their laughter suddenly halted, but one gangster yelled at me. How dare you glare at us? Do you want to die? Huh? I saw him clenching his fist. His eyes were furiously glaring at me. And for that reason, they surrounded me. I stood still, bowing my head to the ground. No Pilcro yen cent. I pronounced as I was ready to punish them with my power. But when I was about to use my power, I heard an unfamiliar voice approaching us. Hey! Leave the girl alone. I was interrupted by his low but manly voice. I quickly looked behind me and I saw Alejandro. My heart beats abnormally as I saw him. The way he talked made the gangster chilled in fear. Move out of here, you low-key bastard, Alejandro yelled at the gangster while standing firmly behind my back. You're lucky, bitch. The leader of the gangster muttered to me and spit saliva on my clothes. I was at the peak of my anger, but goodness, that man came to save me. Are you okay? Alejandro approached and he asked me to worry. I could not look at his eyes directly because my clothes were messed up. Why are you here alone? Did you know that those gangsters may kill you? He added as he sat on the nearby rock. I don't have a home, I replied, tilted my head down to the ground. Oh, sorry. How about this, you come back with me. You can stay my pack than to harm by those gangsters. Alejandro's words made me feel surprised. I slowly looked at him and his eyes melted my heart. And from the day that Alejandro rescued me, I fell in love with him. With every passing hour, I could help myself not to think about the day that we met. I lived in his pack and it became my eternal home. And for the moment that I wanted him to be mine, but I worried that I was simply a lowly person. How could the goddess let me be with such a noble Alejandro? And the dirty trick appeared in my mind. I would learn to love magic and cast a spell on Alejandro so he would be mine. Days turned to weeks and weeks turned to months. And I perfectly made a black magic spell to make him mine. And I'm confident that he would fall from my trick. Everything was so perfect. If only he had fallen in love with me. This could have been possible. But then that bitch showed up and messed up my whole plan. My beloved man fell in love with the woman that he saw at first glance and not me whom he always with. End of flashback. Arg. She already has everything. Fame. Family. Beauty. Power. I don't care about any of that, but you. She has no right to have you, Claire shouted as she remembered her past. Alejandro walked toward me again, his eyes got widened in anger as he glared at me disgusted. I knew he was surprised by what I said. You are disgusting. A woman like you is not worthy to be mine even at the pace of this earth. Even without Hirre, I wouldn't have chosen you, Alejandro said angrily, and I get what he wanted to say. It was like a kick to the gut. The fake mate bond made the weight of his words tortuous and my inner wolf howled out in pain. Alejandro. Please. Don't say that. I begged his forgiveness, but he just turned around and walked away from me. No. I shouted, but he just halted his steps without looking back. Just wait for the trial, he replied, and I felt like the heaven and earth befell on me at the moment that my hard work failed and wasted. His words stung, twisting deep into my flesh like a knife, and I felt hopeless again and again. Midday of the next day. In the trial ground. Third-person POV. The crowd was murmuring with each other now that they arrived at the trial ground. All of them were unaware of why Alejandro urgently called them. What's happening? Who will be in this trial? Is there a criminal in our pack? Everyone took a wild guess as no one had any idea why they were all in the area. Until then, Alejandro suddenly arrived. The crowds turned silent as they saw Alejandro coming. Alejandro, on the other hand, scanned the area of a few people around with a cold gaze and silent mouth. From the middle of the ground, Claire was tied with a silver chain and was surrounded by fire. One by one, Alejandro's family came and they were shocked at what they saw. The first one to come was Hirre. And when she saw Claire, "Brother! What the hell are you doing?" Hirre yelled out as she approached the location of his brother in a rush. Her eyes were filled with confusion and anger about why Claire was in the middle of the trial ground tied in such a state. She did expect that the person that would be executed on the trial ground was Claire. However, she wanted an explanation in which she couldn't get. After all, it seemed like she was talking just to a stone statue as Alejandro only ignored her. "Brother. Why did you suddenly turn into this?" Yuri added, but Alejandro was still silent. Until their parents came. Like Yuri, they were shocked as they saw Claire tied up. "What's going on here?" Former Alpha Gregor asked with a frown, his eyes narrowed in a cold slit. On the other hand, Alejandro's family members were only silent. But with the aura they exuded, it appeared that they too wanted to learn what was going on. "It seems like everyone is here," Alejandro said, projecting Claire into the middle of the trial ground. "We're here to witness the punishment that I'll bring upon to this woman, Claire Sylvia," he added, and everyone was shocked as they saw Claire being surrounded with fire. Many of them could not believe what they heard and saw. "Claire, isn't she Alpha Alejandro's woman?" "Yes, could it be that she betrayed Alpha Alejandro?" The crowd was talking. After all, it was not long ago that they witnessed the sex video of Alejandro and Claire. Quiet. Just as everyone's chatter was getting louder, Alejandro's order made the scene quickly quiet. His words afterwards immediately shocked the crowd. After taking a moment of pause, Alejandro finally roared out his decision. "Claire Sylvia, with her rotten heart and ulterior motive, used black magic to me. An unforgivable sin that I doubt even the goddess would let it slide. As such, I, Alejandro Lionheart, Alpha of the Moonchaser Pack." There was a moment of pause before he continued in a much colder tone, "Sentence her to death." "What? Black magic?" The crowd was utterly shocked by his words. After all, it was an event that hadn't happened in a long time, and it was happening next to their own pack, their own alpha. "What? What about you? Are you okay? What was the magic?" Alejandro's mother was naturally the one who was most frightened, and she kept checking her son's body to make sure he was okay. "I'm fine, Mom. She tried to put a spell on me and bring me a fake maid bond, but Yuri, on the other side, was not convinced. No. Claire cannot do it. I know her very well. This must be just a setup by Hirre," Yuri yelled in her loudest as she heard the words that her brother imposed on Claire. She wanted to save Claire and hoped that her brother would listen to her. And to make things more favorable for her, she went to the stage and turned to the crowd as she shouted, "Bro. It must be the black magic that Hirre put on you back then. But she betrayed you now. Hirre is the mastermind of what's happening to Claire. That bitch even seduced Severus and already gained the mark of the prince." Alejandro was stunned when he heard her stupid sister. He could not believe that Yuri would believe that Claire was innocent. He glared at his sister and it made Yuri to stop talking. But before Alejandro could say another word, a female voice echoed in the area. "If I had been marked, your brother would have died already." Here's POV. I walked toward the trial ground, being escorted by my bodyguards. Mr. Zahart also followed behind me toward the ground. We went directly to the stage as I heard Yuri throwing curses at me. But I didn't have time to argue with her, I came for more important things. I bowed my head and greeted Alejandro's family. Yes, I showed my humbleness to them even though they did not put too much care about me before. Mr. Zahart, he is Alejandro Lionheart. Please check him. I ordered the witch doctor and he nodded his head in response. Mr. Zahart saw Claire and I saw at his eyes the feeling of being surprised. But I didn't mind Mr. Lionheart. I turned around to see Claire, as it was obvious that she did not expected that I would learn about her dirty trick. The people around the stage could not believe that they saw Mr. Lionheart with me. Their eyes seemed like asking me why, since they thought that I could not afford the witch doctor. Is that the witch doctor? How is that possible? Questioning voices came from the crowd. Because they knew that only the extremely honorable person could accommodate the service of the doctor, and even the Alpha King would find it hard to do so. What the hell, why is she here? Is it great to bring a random person to pretend to be a witch doctor? Yuri glared at me with disgust. She rolled her eyes and crossed her arms under her chest as she curved the other side of her lip to annoy me. I knew she wanted to put me in humiliation again, that was why she was doing that. And she seemed like not satisfied to what she was doing as she strutted to approach me. But before she could go closer to me, my bodyguards immediately obstructed her path to stop her. That made Yuri naturally furious. Hey! Are you out of your mind? Let me introduce myself to that bitch, Yuri yelled to my bodyguards, but she did not succeed. Why are you protecting that bitch? She is responsible for this. Yuri kept on whining, trying to put me on humiliation. Meanwhile, I stood calmly as I just stared at her silently. I ignored her nonsense introduction as I did not want to waste my time for her. Helpless, Yuri gritted her teeth in anger as she finally walked away from us. After a short while, the doctor came and he caught the attention of everyone. Miss Vermont, I got the result. The witch doctor nodded his head before he turned to look at the crowd and added, and now, without further ado, I announced that this woman named Claire Sylvia is using black magic. Lionheart had been working for my grandfather, so he used to call me Vermont, which quickly led those present to recognize me as such. Everyone was shocked by the sudden revelation. Not to the result of the test, but to my identity. Their eyes widened greatly upon learning that I was the heir of the richest family in the world. What the? Is that true? There's no way, right? People asked each other in total disbelief. They traded opinions. They could not believe that the woman that they used as their laughingstocks before was actually the heir. My gosh. Is she the lost heir of Vermont family? A woman gasped with her incredulous face. Her words attracted the attention of the crowd. Now that she mentioned it, everything was starting to make sense. All of them were stunned, even Alejandro was also surprised, and he could not imagine that I was the richest woman in the world. Vermont? Alejandro POV. What? She was the heiress of Vermont? So that day, at that party, she was actually the star of the show. The wealth and prestige of the Vermont family was simply unexplained. This meant that it was even harder for me to have her again. I was not worthy compared to her. Even the people in my pack could not believe it. And I was pretty sure that they felt the shame and humiliation they acquired all these years, as they treated Hirre badly from the past. Even Yuri was shocked and she could not speak. She bit her lips to control her exploding emotion. She didn't want to show what she felt right now toward the sudden news. I knew that she idolized the Vermont's fashion, and she felt a deadly shame and guilt, thinking that the woman she used to bully was actually the heir of her idol. And here, she simply ignored our shock, as if it was all in her control. She was calmly standing next to the witch doctor, asking the doctor how to lift the magic. I went closer to them and I heard their conversation. Mr. Lionheart, how can we remove the magic safely? She asked, Seemed like she hoping that everything would be alright. The witch doctor replied calmly, "The only thing that you can do is that the both of you should make a mate bond with your real mates at the same time, and then you could break free from the curse safely." I was surprised on what he said. This meant I need to mark that bitch? "Alejandro, what are you thinking?" she asked me, and I was little distracted by her sweet voice. I replied, and I wanted to say something. But my tongue just couldn't go on any longer. At that moment, my parents went toward us. And everyone on the stage were on uproar as they thought that Claire was not suited to be my Luna. "No. This trial is over. We do not agree that Claire will be the next Luna. Punish Claire. Sentence her to death. Kill her." The loud voices of people echoed across the trial ground. Their voices were mixed together and it made me feel dizzy. "Silence!" I shouted to catch the attention of everyone. "From now on, I will never let someone like Claire as my Luna." And my voice made Claire to feel incomparable pain. "What exactly should we do now?" Bang! Suddenly, a sound of a gunshot echoed, causing everyone to fall into an immediate panic. I saw Hirre covered her ears and was protected by her guards. I felt relief as I saw her safe, but to my shock, when I shifted my gaze back at Claire, I saw her who had already broken free. "Catch her!" I bellowed furiously as I ran to catch Claire, who was now trying to escape. But to my another shock, a mysterious man suddenly appeared and caught Claire like a thunderbolt. "Damn it!" I cursed out aloud. Before I could get closer and my armies responded, Claire and the mysterious man had already vanished, leaving without a trace. "Catch up to them, hurry!" I ordered my men with desperate roar as I saw everyone running to hide themselves from the possible danger. Hirre looked at me and her eyes were filled with confusion. Suddenly, I felt something different on her face. She suddenly turned pale and her eyes were slowly closing. "Hirre." I didn't waste any more time as I ran back to Hirre. But as soon as I started heading her way, she suddenly fell and collapsed on the ground. Hirre lost her consciousness. "Doctor. Come on." Alejandro POV. "Miss." Everyone was shocked as they saw Hirre suddenly collapse. I was worried about her and I did not know what was going on. I immediately brought her to the safest place and I slowly laid her on the bed. "Check her out," I said anxiously. And after a few moments, the doctor finished the result. "Mr. Lionheart." He stood and said a few words, but before he gave me the result, Severus came rushing. "What happened?" Severus asked me furiously. His eyes glared at me, seemed like he blaming me for what happening to Hirre. I did not answer him because even though I did not know the exact thing that caused Hirre to collapse. "If there's anything happen at Hirre, I will never forgive you," Severus shouted indignantly, and he blamed me for what happened to Hirre. And might he be right, I failed to protect Hirre? Sorry. But I really don't know what's happening right now," I replied to him as he started to make a fuss. "No. I let Hirre to meet you. And you need to protect her, but look at what you did. You approach Hirre to this danger." Severus was still mad at me. "And where is he? How could he let Hirre come alone?" "You." I was about to retort when the doctor's voice interrupted me. "Enough that. For this situation, you both need to be okay because Hirre is under the curse, a deadly curse." I was shocked as I heard Mr. Lionheart's words. I saw from my peripheral vision that Severus was also worried about Hirre. What do you mean?" Severus asked the witch doctor. You both need to find Claire as soon as possible. This spell is too vicious and I can't fix it. Mr. Lionheart replied, and I felt uneasy because Severus quarrel. Severus glared at me and our eyes met each other. I'll send someone to find it. He responded quickly. But I knew it was not enough, it was simply hopeless to search blindly like this. It was as if he read my eyes. Let's work together, Alejandro. Severus stretched his arm and leaned it to me. I nodded my head and shook my hands with him. I was ready to lower my pride for Hirre. Of course, everything for Hirre. After we agreed on one goal, I ordered my men to collect the bullets left on the trail ground. It would be used to find out who rescued Claire. Severus also ordered his men to find Claire even in the human world. I'm going to kill this fucking bitch. Here POV. I felt I decrease my weight. I felt something different around me. I couldn't feel myself and my wolf in our world. Harsha. Where we are? I asked my wolf as I felt that we're locked up. I don't know, Harsha replied to me, and even she was confused about what happening between us. I looked around but I couldn't see anything. Suddenly, I heard someone talking. And that voice was familiar. Everything for Hirre. For what? They want to fight again? Severus? Alejandro? Where are you? I shouted but seemed like there was no voice coming out. What's happening? Why I can't shout aloud. I wondered why as I could not wake up. Hirre, sorry I did not protect you. But I promise that if you wake up, I will never force you again. I heard the familiar voice of a man, and he was Severus. If that means I'm really in a coma? What's going on? Oh. He is so sweet. Harsha was touched by what she heard from Severus. Harsha. That's enough. We're still in a coma. Now is not the time to be moved. And I won't believe his vows anymore. I reminded Harsha. Honey. Severus was still calling out to me. I ignored his voice and I continued observing the place I was in. Because even if he gave me his sweetest words, I would never be convinced by that. Here? I was shocked as I heard a female calling my name. This voice, so familiar. Mom? I replied, asking the unknown voice. Yes, my sweetheart. I was shocked when I completely understand that my mother was the one who called me. Mom? It's really Mom. I didn't know what to say to my mom for a while. There's so much to say. Mom. I stammered and spoke, completely forgetting to ask my mom why she could talk to me. Maybe even if it was just a dream it wouldn't matter. I'm here because I asked the goddess to speak with you for a while. My mother added. I was touched by her words. Oh Mom, thank you. I miss you so much. I expressed my thoughts to my mom, but strangely enough, my body just won't move. Me too, sweetie. But here, you are under the curse. My mother replied and I saw surprised as I heard her. I was worried about myself. A curse? Then how do I lift it? I asked my mom worrying. Oh, honey. Don't worry, tell mommy a little more about your life. You would be fine, and such witchcraft would not work on you. My mother replied. It's certainly a joy to talk to my mom about my life, but why is it that this witchcraft doesn't work on me? Why is Mom so sure about it? Severus POV. Crimson Blood Pack tilde. This night, I would save Hirre from danger. because it's the only thing I knew for now. I brought her to the sacred ground where the mating would happen under the full moon. Hirre was lying unconsciously on the oathstone table, wearing a huge black cloak. She was so gorgeous even her skin was pale and seemed lifeless. She was already 2 days laying on the bed without consciousness. Fortunately, she was still breathing and it was a good sign that she was still alive. My family gathered around the table with the Alpha and Luna of the major packs. I invited them to witness this awaited night. Everyone was waiting and I knew they were ready for this night. I went closer to the body of Hirre and kneeled on the ground and whispered in her ears. "I'm so sorry, Hirre. I'm so sorry if I tell you that I will never mark you again without your consent. But now, I have to do this. This is the only thing I know to save you. Please forgive me." After giving my apology to my Hirre, I stood and faced the people around me. "Tonight, I announce that Hirre Monreal is my Luna. I will give her my mark in the presence of the moon and Alpha." I shouted and everyone was silent, listening to my announcement. I scanned around and everyone was still silent, waiting for the moment that I could give Hirre my mark. However, before I went closer to Hirre, Claire burst and she was with the rouges. "Stop this," Claire shouted and she was glaring at me. Everyone was put in shock and frightened as they saw the number of rouges surrounding the sacred ground. My soldiers surrounded me and Hirre to protect us from the attack that bastard did to us. Claire stood fearless even though there were alphas of every pack surrounding them. From how she stood and show no fear, I knew that she wanted to stop me from giving my mark to Hirre. "Someone, protect everyone and leave. Alpha." They were still worried about me, but I couldn't leave. I was going to stay and enjoy the drama show. "That's an order. Go," I yelled, which made the soldiers leave without a care. And when they left, I went much closer to Hirre to protect her by myself. I stared at Claire. She scanned the area and she seemed like looking for someone. After a moment of pause, she looked back at me anxiously and shouted. "See, here comes the drama, doesn't it?" Of course I knew who she was looking for, but I just looked at her coldly. It turns out that such a vicious person can also have such anxious moments. "Where is Alejandro?" She finally couldn't resist asking. She was really afraid that Alejandro would die because of me and Harry. "Alejandro. I told you. This is the best plan." Alejandro's POV. After hearing Severus shout at me, I came out from the backstage and I saw Claire standing anxiously. Severus made up a plan by putting me in a trap to make Claire show up. I appeared on her sight and her eyes shone brightly as she saw me. "Don't follow me." She signals the rouges not to go closer to me and the people around. "Thanks, goddess, you're safe." She stepped closer to me as she felt relief as she saw me in safe. But before she made another step, I walked backward, showing her that I didn't want to see her or contact her. Even my wolf, Gao, didn't want her wolf to be contacted. I no longer had any attraction between mates for her, all that remained was disgust and hatred. I just wanted to make sure you were okay." Claire halted her steps and she looked at me with her sad eyes. "I know it is just a trap. But I'm thankful that you are safe, Alejandro." She suddenly spoke and from the tone of her voice, she was not mad at me and everyone in the sacred ground. "Claire. Lift the spell from here as soon as possible and I will not kill you." I growled at her. However, before Claire replied, She smiled at me briefly, peeking at the unconscious body of Hirre. She averted again her eyes away from Hirre and threw it to me. "You really love her that much?" she asked. I couldn't read her mind, so I always read myself, because we would never let our guard down. Especially the rouges that she have was many. "Do it now," I growled again. She looked at me directly in the eyes and her smile faded slowly. "Okay, I'll save her." Her words made me lively. I felt hope and I looked at Hirre. I smiled as I thought that I could protect her. However, Clara's words made me feel surprised as she added, "On one condition, mark me and let me be your Luna." She coldly spoke and I really put in shock as I heard her. I looked at Severus and he didn't seem surprised that Clara would make such a request. Yeah, that's what he wanted to see. "Why are you looking at me? This is between you and her. I will agree to whatever it takes to save my Harry." Severus declares in front of me how much he loves his mate. My throat got dry, but I need to think better. "Gao, what do we do?" I tried to get an answer from my wolf. But all he gave me was silence. "If you need more time, then I'll go first. As for this spell, you can't leave," Severus suddenly shouted, and I knew that he had already set up a large number of Alpha soldiers around. Clara and her rogues would never be able to escape. So what? As long as I don't lift it, this bitch will just have to wait for death. Shut up. I've had enough. I clearly warned her countless times to respect Harry. "Well, what's now?" she asked me. Seemed like she expected that I declined her offer. She crossed her arms in her chest, waiting for my kind response. I loved her even though we have a fake bond. She filled my heart and brought happiness to me. She was always by my side before. And even though we're just a fake bond, I felt love. Might this be the hardest decision I could make in my entire life? But Severus was right, to love someone is to do all you can for her. "Okay, I agree." "You? What did you say?" Claire stared at me with wide eyes. Obviously she was the one who made the request, but she never seemed to think that I would actually agree. "Not long ago. Here's POV. I'm mate with him, but I don't want him to control me. I think you understand, Mom. I had told my mom all about my childhood. I wanted to tell her every second of my life, but suddenly, a familiar voice came through the air, from Severus, Alejandro, and several voices that were unfamiliar to me. I couldn't hear what they were saying. "What's going on here? It looks like your grandpa came to see you." Mom solved my confusion. That's right, I was hurt, and the ones who were most worried were definitely Grandpa and Uncle. I was so engrossed in my time with my mother that I actually forgot about it. "Here, it's time. Mom is gonna go. My dear, you remember to be happy. Take care for your grandfather." Maybe Mom wanted to say my father, but she didn't say it in the end. Mom. Wait. The time went by so fast, I still had a lot to say to my mom. I hadn't told her how much Grandpa missed her. "Mom. Mom." All I could do was keep shouting. I hoped to hear my mom's reply again, but all I got in reply was my own echo. "Ooh. Mommy." I cried like a newborn baby. I had lost my mother for the second time. Harsha seemed to feel my heart ache as she too whimpered in pain. "How are you taking care of her?" It was my uncle's voice. I must have looked bad in my coma, and my uncle, who had seen so much, was so scared. But where was Grandpa? Why didn't I hear Grandpa's voice? Grandpa is already an old man, he can't have fainted. I'm taking her back. You guys. Uncle continued to yell in anger, but suddenly a calm voice interrupted him. All right, it was Grandpa, he was there, too. Great. Mr. Vermont. They can't protect here, said the uncle, still not giving up. It is true. But you calm down first. Here will be fine. Grandpa replied with certainty. Then he immediately added, she'll wake up soon. What? Grandpa actually said the same thing as Mom. Why? Why are they so sure that this spell won't work on me? I wanted to discuss it with Harsha, but suddenly, everything went skyward. My heart palpitated too much. The place I was rotated faster and the white surroundings suddenly turned into a vague place. I felt there was a portal that swallowing me. An infinity portal toward another world. I heard countless voices burrowing confusingly into my ears. These voices were of varying heights, familiar and never heard before. What the hell is all this? Until. Mark me and let me be your Luna. It was Claire's voice. Who was she giving orders to? Alejandro? I think she's blackmailing him in exchange for saving me, but according to Grandpa and Mom, I don't need her to save me. Okay, I agree. Alejandro's voice came. What? Why would he agree? No. Alejandro. I don't need it. I kept shouting through the excruciating pain in my head as I tried to stop the absurdity of it all. No. Why? I could not breathe. I felt warm and suddenly, it turned cold. I lost all my strength and could only let my body keep falling down into the abyss. Back to reality. She's awake. I heard someone shout, and I was surprised as I opened my eyes. I was no longer in the white massive room, but now, I was laying on the sacred stone. I felt a little afraid, seeing myself wearing a huge black cloak on the large stone table. Am I dead? I suddenly thought. And before I spoke, Severus held my hand tightly while guiding me to sit. I saw from his eyes how he worried about me. Thanks, you're finally awake. He said. Seemed like he waited for me for so long. But I could not speak because of the many people around us. I just scanned the area and I saw from their reaction the happiness as they saw me. I'm okay. I was still weak and whispered to everyone. That's good. My uncle nodded with tears of relief, while my grandfather on the side was calm as if he already knew the outcome. Grandpa. I wanted to ask Grandpa my questions and tell him Mom's greetings, but then I saw Claire. Was what I just heard true? Alejandro? Question marks appeared on my mind and everything puzzled me out. I had so many questions, but maybe I had just come out of a coma and my brain couldn't handle that yet. I felt a sharp pain that was hard for me to bear. Here. Severus immediately came up and took me in his arms, which did make me a lot more comfortable. He looked back and everyone nodded their head. I knew Severus commanded them to move away. They walked out from the sacred ground. Severus and I were left on the stage. Alejandro POV. Their mate, only Severus can make here feel comfortable anymore. I'm even glad that Severus ordered us to leave. I really didn't want to see them hugging each other. I always kept thinking, that person should be me. Don't look back, Alejandro. She'll be happier. That's what my wolf and I were talking to ourselves. I knew that Claire walked and followed me. I just ignored her, but she seemed like a straw sipping attention from me. Yes, I agreed with her to be my Luna, but everything was just for Hirre. I need to bet what I felt for the sake of the woman I love. Alejandro. Her voice made me halt my steps without looking back at her. I didn't reply to her. I just kept on standing in her front, 10 meters away from her. "Where is the mating ceremony will take place?" she asked excitedly when she did not receive any words from me. I didn't expect that she would ask me that kind of shitty question. But in the tone of her voice, I knew she was the happiest woman tonight. "I don't know. But I'm sure if Hirre had enough rest, our mating ceremony will be held together to ensure our safety." I responded to her coldly and I continued walking away from her. "I can't wait to be your Luna," she replied, and she looked like a kid that promised to treat in the park. She followed me again and I knew she would never let me go until she became my Luna. Author's POV. Mr. Vermont halted his steps behind Alejandro and Claire. He looked at Mr. Lionheart and raised his left hand secretly to signal the witch doctor to stop walking. When the witch doctor was given feet away from him, he scanned the area and asked the doctor, "Are you sure you can do it?" he asked, which made the doctor smirk. Mr. Vermont. "Since Mr. Alejandro is willing to sacrifice, I will bet myself for this," Mr. Lionheart replied, and the old Vermont tapped his shoulder. They walked in the common direction and left the sacred ground immediately. Author's POV. The mating ceremony. Everyone was around the sacred ground of the moon goddess. Ala and Luna were there waiting for the mating season of the two couples, except for Alejandro's family, who could not accept Claire as their future Luna. Hirre and Severus were on the right side of the sacred place. They were standing close to each other. However, Claire and Alejandro were on the other side, 5 feet apart from each other. Claire smiled brightly as she found herself standing next to his beloved man. And even Alejandro's family did not want her anymore. She doesn't care about it. The important to her was she was the next Luna of the Moonchaser pack. When everyone was ready, the witch doctor came and he walked toward the center of the stage. He looked at both sides of the place and said, "Alejandro, Severus, you need to give your mark to your Luna on time. Because once you failed, one of them will be in danger." Severus and Alejandro nodded their head as they heard the warning from the witch doctor. Mr. Lionheart went down the stage and the ladies wearing silk white dresses came. They were dancing around the other 4, waving their hands and singing unfamiliar songs. The candles were enlightened and the ground shone like stars at night. The full moon peaks at the place and everyone bowed their head in praise for the moon goddess, Selene. After a while, the dancing stopped and the music fades. Everyone was looking at the 4. Severus held the hand of Hirre, facing each other. And it also did by Alejandro and Claire. Severus stared at Hirre. He could not deny how much he was excited to mark Hirre as his Luna. They gave each other their vows. Alejandro and Claire followed them. And after some pleasantries, everyone counts a second and both sides waited to mark each other. 1, 2, 3. Severus marked Hirre after the counts and Hirre enjoyed how her mate gave her his mark. She felt good and her strength came back. But everyone's attention was drawn to Alejandro on the other side, who acted in a way that took everyone by surprise. Alejandro leaned down right on time and approached Claire, and when everyone thought he was going to mark her, he suddenly shouted. Alejandro Lionheart rejected you, Claire Sylvia, as my Luna. Of course, the most surprised person was Claire, who was full of expectation, but her surprise didn't last long. After all, being rejected is very painful. Arg. She fell to the ground holding her head and kept struggling to get closer to Alejandro, but Alejandro, who was not far away, did not care about her at all. Arg. After shouting rejection, Alejandro growled in pain. His eyes were teary and red as he kept on enduring the pain he felt toward the rejection. His nerves were shaking and he suddenly felt sweaty even with the cold night embracing his body. While Alejandro crying in pain, the witch doctor immediately walked closer to Claire. €yen pilcro pound cent carat pilcro euro. After Mr. Lionheart recited a string of incantations, Claire felt her instant loss of strength. All the power in her body was drained away, and all her witch power was gone. Arg. Claire then realized that getting her back wasn't the trap, this ceremony was the biggest trap of all. Flashback. Severus, Alejandro, King Ansel, and Mr. Vermont were sitting near Hirre's unconscious body. They were talking about something and Mr. Vermont went closer to Hirre and pronounced mysterious words. It doesn't take that bitch to undo the spell anymore, but she has to be found. If she doesn't, Hirre and Alejandro's fake bond can't be lifted. Severus' words reminded those present that they still had this crucial problem unresolved. No. That bitch can't be my Luna. Alejandro strongly disagrees and it made Severus get mad. No. Want it or not, you need to do this. Severus growled, but he knew that Alejandro have his own will. But it's none of his business because of that damn fake bond. He's missed Hirre for too long. Then I'll reject her. Alejandro tried to express his determination. Don't you dare. Just as the two were arguing, Mr. Lionheart put a stop to it. Wait. Yes. Maybe it can be rejected. Mr. Lionheart spoke and the two glanced at a piece of hope. What did you say? Lionheart. Mr. Vermont asked. This is a direction that no one ever thought of. Severus looked at Alejandro and they were willing to hear the suggestion. Mr. Lionheart calmed himself and added, the book says that the fake mate bond needs to be dealt with along with the fake one. Whether it was a rejection or an acceptance. Yes, why haven't we thought in that direction? Mr. Vermont echoed that thought. Huh? So you mean we can accept and reject our fated Luna if we want? Severus asked and Alejandro widened his eyes. But it is dangerous, especially since no one done it before. Mr. Lionheart replied and Severus felt sad as he heard the bad side of the suggestion. However, Alejandro seemed like he made up his mind. He was willing to accept the fact and face the risk that he might encounter. It's okay, find that bitch. I can do it. End of flashback. Everyone around the sacred ground immediately walked out. The cry of Alejandro echoed around and it filled the sacred ground. Claire cried painfully. The cry that only her soul could hear. She was nothing like trash in the bin again. But she still loved Alejandro. She endures the pain that Mr. Lionheart doing to her. And when she felt her breath was fading, she forced herself and said, "Kill me, Alejandro. Kill me and I will be the happiest woman to die from your hand." She gave up her struggles and let Alejandro kill her. However, even Alejandro was in pain. He shook his head while his hands were shaking. Why, Alejandro's hesitation puzzled Claire. Didn't he do all this to get her killed? Why hadn't he done it? Here's POV. Next day. I woke up late in the morning. I opened my eyes and found myself naked lying on the bed. Fortunately, there was a thick blanket that helped me to cover my naked body. I looked around and I felt relieved as I saw myself alone on the bed. If Severus was there, I guess I would have had to spend this morning in bed again. I pulled my blanket and lay in a fetal position. My body was tired and I needed some time to rest. But before I closed my eyes again, I heard a familiar voice coming behind me. At last, you wake up. I heard a manly voice and I immediately turned back. And I saw Severus standing half naked. I felt shy and grabbed the sheet to hide myself. "What are you doing here?" I asked him, but he just walked closer to me. I felt annoyed by his action, but I need to stay calm. "Your breakfast is all ready. What do you think I was going to do?" He always teases me verbally. I decided to ignore his words. I looked at him and I saw him pointing the breakfast on the table. But I could not move freely because I was still naked. And looked like he reads what I wanted to do. He halted his steps and smiled at me. "You're beautiful today, baby. But last night you said you were going to interrogate Claire yourself today, so after breakfast we're off," he added before he leaves my room. After he walked out, I felt my cheeks burning hot because of his aura and words. I actually became a Luna. 1 hour later. Interrogation room. "Your Highness," the soldiers saluted us neatly as soon as we walked into the new interrogation room. Everywhere I looked from this morning until now, I was reminded that I was bound to Severus. We nodded in response to the salutes and struggled to adjust to my new identity. I looked around the brand new interrogation room, with its white walls, barred windows, and interrogation chairs, and exchanged glances with Severus, clearly both of us satisfied. The interrogation room was a makeshift one, made according to what I had seen in the human movies before. Unlike a traditional werewolf prison, there would be no torture to extract a confession, nor would any of the prisoners be tortured. This is exactly what Severus and I wanted to see. The soldiers led us into the innermost room, where Claire had been waiting for us to arrive. I saw Claire sitting on the chair. Her hands were handcuffed with a silver chain. She saw someone pushing in the door, her eyes shining brightly, but after seeing us she quickly returned to her gloomy eyes. Clearly, we were not the people she wanted to see. "I think she's looking for Alejandro," Severus muttered, and I thought it as well. I went closer to her, but not too close. She knitted her eyebrows, but I just ignored her attitude. "He can't come," I finished and waited for her to ask me why, but much to my surprise, she didn't seem to care and ignored me without a word. I had to add myself, "Your spell hurt him badly." Gao, his wolf, is dormant. An alpha had lost his wolf, it was fatal, and it was all because of this woman in front of me. I expected her to repent, to weep. But she just looked at me with cold eyes, as if it was all in her plan. She raised her eyes to look at Severus behind me, and I understood instantly that she did not want him present. I took a deep breath and walked toward Severus. "Sev, let me deal with her alone." He was reluctant to leave, just as I had expected. "Trust me, I can do it. All you need to do is to look for Sion as soon as possible." I ordered Severus, but he reluctantly agreed with me. When he was gone, I went back to Claire and looked at her dominantly. She glared at me and I knew she hated me so much at that moment. You won't find him?" she asked me, but I just kept myself looking at her as I took my phone inside my pocket. "None of your business, look at this first." I opened the screen and showed her the video that contains how much Alejandro suffered from the spell. He was vomiting a lot of blood. Claire widened her eyes as she saw how Alejandro fainting on the spot. On how she reacted, it seems I didn't misjudge, she just didn't believe what I said. She moved closer, but before she looked at the phone closer, I immediately turned off the phone. "Ugh! Show it to me," she shouted, but I ignored her. Just like she just did. "Let me out of here. I need to save him. UF to the power of Seeker," she growled widely. Even though she was handcuffed, she was still pursuing to move harshly to be free. "How? How can you save Alejandro?" I coldly asked her, which made her stop moving. "It's not your business, bitch," she replied, and I felt annoyed with her attitude. "You can't save him. No one else can save him," I added fiercely, and she gritted her teeth in anger. "Yeah, I can't save him. All my witchcraft is gone. I can't save him." Finally, she gave the reaction I expected. I knew she was now completely defenseless, so, now was the time. "Speak up, about your father's death." "What?" She was surprised. "How did I know this deepest secret?" "Here's POV. It's you. You killed him." I looked at her directly as I added. Claire glared at me angrily. For a long time she did not speak. She intended to muddle through with the trick of silence. Thanks to the captured hooligans, and I knew everything about her past. They told me that Claire was responsible for why her father died. "Why you killed your father?" I asked her to know her motive. But unexpectedly, she looked at me and began to smirk. "Ha ha ha ha, father? He is also worthy of being called a father?" Her smirk turned into a mocking one. I knitted my eyebrows as I saw her reaction. "It's him who deserves to die. He deserved to die since he was ripping our necks out. My mom and I suffered hardship from his fist. Wasn't he deserves that?" I shook my head as I heard her stupid answer. "No matter what, there is no killing. There is no end to fighting violence with violence. Why you did not seek for help? It's more helpful than killing. Right? Once you kill him too, you're not just a victim anymore," I retorted. Snap. Claire gritted her teeth in anger as she slammed the table with her both handcuffed hands. I never expected that she would feel angered by my words. "And who will gonna help us? We are just a mere werewolf that doesn't have any right in this F to the power of seeking world," she growled, and her eyes filled with anger and hatred as she answered me. "That's not true, Claire. Every person in this world has rights. You should protect yourself with the law. And your mother," I answered, emphasizing the rules that we have in our world. "That's your world. Not mine. My world is all about life and death. Don't act that you feel me. We are not the same." She kept on growling and shouting indignantly. Silence. "A different world? Is there another world I don't know about? You?" I was about to pursue the question when the door behind me made a loud clang. Clang. "What's going on here?" Severus came rushing and he quickly went closer to me. I was surprised because he did not follow my order recently and he kept on waiting for me outside. "Why are you here?" I asked him. "Sorry, but I cannot leave you here. I was afraid that she might hurt you." And now, look, she is in crazy. Severus replied, and I got his point. He just ensuring my safety, and he faced Claire. Claire looked at us with a mockery on her face and said, "Humph, look. I was just a little louder and he decided I was going to kill you, and he immediately rushed over to scold me. Are we in the same world?" Her words left me speechless. It was as if all this was proof that she was right and I didn't understand her situation. Before I could think of a reply, Severus retorted first. "Shut up, Claire. Yes, you are right, here, and you are not the same because you are a underscore," he shouted, but before he finished his sentence, I stopped him. "Sev. No. I'm wrong," I spoke, lowering my voice, and I pulled Severus's hand. "What?" he asked me, wondering. He never thought that I would be saying those words to myself, even though Claire started the fuss. I faced Claire fearless. My hands were shaking and my eyes were furiously glaring at her. I felt my eyes getting warmed because of the tiny tears that wanted to show up. I clenched my hands tightly, trying to calm myself out of this tension between us. She still looked at us coldly and said in a low voice, "What are you trying to say? She's the high and mighty Luna and I'm an unscrupulous half-breed, bitch, right? No, sorry. I should never condemn a victim, especially not your mother." As I said this, I couldn't help but think of my mother and choke up. But I held back my tears and continued my apology. "I also shouldn't have judged you, who was underage at the time, without knowing. Anyway, I'm sorry." Claire suddenly halted her movement as she heard me saying those words that run through her inner soul. Severus looked at me and I felt he wanted to say anything. I know that he also realizes that what he just said was wrong. She is right. And I'm the Alpha Prince, I will never use my name and honor to humiliate you now. Claire was visibly flabbergasted for a second, but soon she smirked and shook her head. She seemed like a crazy bastard who never let our words enter her ear. "These stupid tricks again? Sorry, but you are just wasting your time. Your tricks are worthless." "I didn't appreciate it," she replied, accompanied by the rolling of her eyes. I felt annoyed, but I could not force myself to act like I'm the stupid one. "All right. Then we'll go first, think about it yourself." I had to leave first because I was about to hold back my tears. Snap, Severus behind me slams the door shut. My mind blew away and I felt there was a tear that trying to pierce my heart. Suddenly, I felt Severus's body moving closer to me. He stretched his arms and buried me inside it. He trying to give me at least a little bit of comfort. And he was right, I needed his warm body to make me feel better. "It's okay." His sweet manly voice made me feel better. I sobbed on her chest and he caressed my back. My tears kept on flowing and I really felt better every time I released the pain inside me. "I never thought that I'm not a good one to understand the world." I sobbed, trying to talk with Severus. "Tell me. I will be here for you here," he replied as he kissed my hair. I'm grateful that he was sincere and willing to listen to me. Because I thought before that I understand the world we have. But now, I never thought that many people are living in misery in this world. How could I say something like that? I added, leaning all the burden inside me. Here, it's not too late. We can change the world. That's what we agreed to, isn't it? Severus replied. I lean my body towards Severus and leave all the tears on him. Suddenly, I heard someone calling me in the mind link. I opened the communication and I was shocked at what I heard. Sion came by himself. Alone. Author's POV. After hearing the news from the soldiers, Severus and Hirre immediately walked toward the border. Sion standing alone, taking smoke, and watching soldiers protecting the area. Hirre was surprised as she saw Sion from afar. And was a little surprised as she saw Sion personally. She could not believe that the man that helping Claire was the leader of the Rouges. Sion is the raider who was risen a few years ago was a mystery to them until now. And he gathered the Rouges to be his alliance. His power and clans were all mysterious and some here says that he had a connection to the military cooperation in the human world. How did he come alone? Hirre and Severus looked at each other as they saw Sion without Rouges. The frightened they felt was gone because there was no chaos that might happen. Hirre. Hide first. We don't know the trick of this man. Severus muttered and Hirre nodded her head and let Severus continue walking. Hirre hid first and let Severus talk with Sion. But when Severus reached the boundary, Sion scanned the area and saw that Hirre was not there. Bring out Hirre. Sion suddenly shouted, which echoed in the area. He was standing firmly, crossing his arms on his chest. And what you think you are to order us? Severus asked as he faced Sion. Sion looked at Severus directly and he never threatened Severus as a prince. Because I have an offer that you could not refuse, Sion replied seeming like he was sure of his words. Tell us. Severus asked but Sion just smirked and gave him an annoying aura. Take it easy man. I will tell it but I need to see her first. Let her out. Sion said and raised his eyebrow. He threw the cigar away from him and spitted saliva on the ground. Hirre who was hiding behind the wall and she heard everything. She did not hesitate to agree with Sion's wish and immediately showed up herself. Sion looked at her and from his eyes, he wanted to wish something. What do you want from me? Hirre asked as she faced Sion. At that moment, the soldiers and Severus were behind her. They were alert and focused on the surrounding. I want to see Claire. Sion directly pronounces his will. Hirre and Severus looked at each other. They knew that it was not a big deal if Sion met Claire alone. And how can we be sure that you will never cause trouble? Severus asked and Sion stretched his arms widely and turned around. See? I'm alone. It would only take your snipers a second to shoot me down. Sion said. His acumen surprised Hirre. The sniper had only just gotten into position, and was deployed far away. But he was right, he was alone and couldn't do anything. Hirre looked at her soldiers and signed him past Sion from the barrier. Soldiers immediately followed Hirre and they let Sion walk in. Follow us, Hirre spoke seriously and she walked away toward the interrogation room. Soon, they reached the door of the interrogation room. Claire, who had just been re-incarcerated, was summoned again. Sion. You can see Claire. Hirre said and Sion seriously followed Hirre toward the certain door. At that time, Claire was sitting silently. She was thinking something when she heard the news from the soldier on the door. You have visitor. Claire wondered who was the one who thought to visit her in a prison? An orphan like her was easy to forget by someone. She playing with her hands and she looked like boredom inside that F to the power of seeking cell. However, even she was doubting, she was still hoping that someone would come to visit her. The door opened and she was surprised as she saw Sion approaching with Hirre. She widened her eyes and shook her head. What the hell he's doing here? He is out of his mind? She suddenly thought while Sion entered the door. But before Sion stepped in the inside, Hirre reminded him. Sion, if you are trying to escape with her, I can tell you that you are unable to do so. Hirre muttered before she let Sion came closer to Claire. However, Sion seems like ignoring her. He kept on taking another cigar and walked toward Claire. When the door shuts, he looked at Claire carefully and he was relieved as he saw Claire's state. If they dared to mistreat her, he had already thought of killing those who carried out the execution. Are you still okay here? Sion asked Claire, but he just received a cold eyes. Yeah. Claire replied, and Sion was relieved. That's good to hear. He took another sip of smoke and he felt better as he saw Claire was not tortured inside the cell. Sion looked behind and he saw her standing next to the door. Can I talk to her privately? Sion asked, but Hirre shook her head and refused. Isn't enough that I let you to see her? Hirre said, and Sion clenched his hand into fist. Just give me a moment. Sion added, pleasing for another time. No. I need to know everything you will talk about. Hirre bravely said, and Sion could not make another reasons to please. Hey, words before death, do you want to listen to them too? Sion said mockingly. What do you mean? Hirre wondered. Don't all of you honored wolves want me, the rogue leader, to die? Sion said as he looked at Severus, who was on the sidelines. Seeing that no one answered him, he continued. My deal. I can kill myself and satisfy you all, and you can take my corpse and run for the next Alpha King. All I want is for her to live. He raised his finger, which was not holding a cigarette, to Claire, who was frozen in place. This fearsome rogue leader, he is going to trade his life for Claire's. Author's POV. Use my corpse to campaign. Hirre and Claire were stunned as they heard Sion saying those words. Claire knitted her eyebrows as she looked at Sion. She could not believe that Sion would be acting like a weakling in front of Hirre. I don't. The calmest Severus just wanted to make his position clear. Claire angrily stood and slammed the table hardly. Thud. Why are you doing these shitty things, huh? Ain't you understand? I don't need you. I don't need anyone to die for me. And even if you die, I don't care. As she added, she raised her eyebrows and glared at Sion. I don't love you. Understand? Sion looked at Claire directly. He suddenly spoke seriously as she heard Claire's confession about his feeling. He felt little pain inside, but he needs to stay strong to make his goal come true. What about that man? Does he love you? Why did you come back? Sion asked, but Claire seemed like she was upset toward Sion's stubbornness. She rolled her eyes, and even though she was handcuffed, she managed to clench her hand into a fist. Do you want to die in this obvious trap? You idiot. I can face death even without your F to the power of seeking help me. My birth was a mistake. Claire growled to Sion, hoping for Claire's acceptance of his feeling. You, Sion said, but Claire immediately shouted angrily. Shut up your mouth. They threw each other some ill words. Hey. You two. Stop arguing, okay? Nothing will happen if you going to make trash talk to each other. Severus scolded them as he felt the tension between the two. The other two looked at Severus and they stopped talking for a while. Claire sat on the chair taunting her lips and rolled her eyes as she averted her gaze away from Sion. No one will die. Severus added. Seemed like he felt heat-headed as he heard two arguing about something unimportant. At that time, Hirre was listening to the argument between the two. And when Severus cut the tension, she quickly moved out from her daydreaming and woke up in reality. She stood and her voice echoed throughout the entire room when she has begun to speak. Listen. I know we all looking forward to the good werewolf's world for everyone. And we don't want to see each other in the chair of death because of the wrong basis. It's too barbaric, right? Hirre spoke and everyone caught their attention. But even though Hirre wanted a good fortune for everyone, Sion seemed like he doesn't care about the good future. He keenly understood what they meant, but he wasn't about to accept it. I'm not going to work with you. Don't plan to use me to destroy my legions. He spoke fiercely. Hirre was speechless as she heard how Sion put his loyalty to his pack. Suddenly, Sion spoke again. They are my brothers. And I will never let any of them get hurt. Sion added as he took another cigar from his pocket. He sipped it and the smoke surrounded him. Ha ha. It's funny. You rogues are quite righteous. Severus laughed and he could not stop himself laughing. He looked at Sion seriously when his laughter was fading. I say again, no one will die. In the past, rogue just meant some bad werewolves, but now it represents all homeless werewolves. This is supposed to be discrimination, and we are trying to change this. You will not die. Put it this way, can you understand? Severus added. Why should I trust you? Sion asks, his mistrust angering Severus. You. Severus' eyes widened. And before they turned mad, Hirre quickly cut the tension between the two. She quickly faced Sion to tell her ambition. Sion, I really can't make you believe us, but look here, look at Claire. Even if we are lying to you, it's still kind of sincere, right? Sion calmed down and looked at the interrogation room and then at Claire, who was unharmed, and he believed Hirre's words. He looked to her and gestured for her to continue. Well, thanks. We doing something important. And to do that, we need your cooperation and I hope you will think about that. Hirre jumped on the conversation of the two. However, Sion raises his eyebrows and thinks about the possible danger of Hirre's offer. He knew that he need to be careful. Also they were in the den of enemies. He needed to have natural but a strong feeling of caution. If you wanted my cooperation with you, I need sincerity. Let me take Claire. Sion replied and he sipped his smoke. But before Hirre could say anything, Claire burst out first. Who's going to leave with you? She didn't want to leave, she couldn't just leave a seriously ill Alejandro behind. No, you're not leaving me with him, she shouted at Hirre with a glare. Claire. Sion tried to persuade Claire again that leaving first was the best option. And that's when Hirre spoke up. No. Hirre replied and as she added, she faced Claire. Sion and Claire looked at each other. They never thought that Hirre would ever accept their goal even for the sake of the werewolf world. Claire, even if your crime is undecidable, only Alejandro can forgive you because he is your alpha. And I can't do it unless he makes it. And since our laws are still being written, I can't just release her. It's as much about destroying the system as it is about killing someone without permission. Hirre stated, even if the traditional rules are followed and the Alpha's decision is the law, then only Alejandro can make that decision. Unfortunately, Alejandro was still now in a coma. Forget it then, I'm willing to wait for that loser to wake up. With that he walked towards Claire, looking ready to stay with her Jean. Who are you calling a loser? I said that asshole. What's wrong? You. The two argued again, and Hirre and Severus, who were watching this, could only stare at each other helplessly. Then, just as Severus was about to use his princely right of amnesty, bam! The door opened and they looked in the common direction where the door was located. They saw Mr. Lionheart approaching the door and they waited for the news of the witch doctor. He is awake. Alejandro actually woke up. The next day, the conference room. Severus, Hirre, Alejandro, and Lucio were all in the massive office room. They were all gathered here for a reason. The king took the initiative to introduce the situation that happened in their worlds, and he was responsible for this event. All of them were sitting facing each other on the long oak table. They were all attentive to what announcement they might hear from the king. Hirre was sitting silently. She was waiting for the news and she did not care about others inside the room. When everyone was ready, King Ansel stood on their front to start the meeting that he held. But before he spoke, he took an envelope and held it for a while. I know all of you are empty-minded. Why are you here? But there is a news that suddenly reaches my office. A group of rouges is attacking every corner of our world. King Ansel said, and everyone was shocked. They could not believe the other problem that now they were facing. And who was responsible for that? Severus asked, even though there was a glimpse of suspicion towards Sion. He thought that Sion was responsible for that because he was the leader of the Rouges. I don't know. But because some small packs sent their problems due to the sudden attack of those Rouges. All of them pointing Sion as the mastermind of those crimes, and they give me all of their evidence. King Ansel replied, and Hirre was stunned. He opened the envelope and took the photos inside. So, why don't we ask Sion about this? Maybe he will able to clear his identity here. Hirre suggested, and she thought that Sion would come to protect himself. Okay. I send security guards to find him. King Ansel replied, and everyone was waiting for Sion. The guards immediately went out and looked for Sion. After a few moments of waiting, Sion came and he walked toward the table. He sat and waited for the king to ask him about his intentions. Why you called me here suddenly? Sion asked coldly as he sat like a boss on the chair. He moves his feet seeming like he doesn't show any kind of respect or fear in front of the king. You're here to tell us this. King Ansel threw the evidence on the table. It flew toward the edge of the table and Sion saw the pictures. He took one of the pictures and knitted his eyebrows as he saw the content of it. Damaged houses, massive roads, disturbing photos, and other bad crimes were in the photos. What this? He asked, wondering as he raised the photo to the top of his head. All of that is the evidence that you and your Rouges attacked the small packs, Hirre replied, and she threw some of the photos towards Sion, who was put in puzzled as he saw those photos. What the hell you're talking about? I'm not responsible for this shit. He angrily denied himself. Are you sure you're not? Severus asked, knitted his eyebrows towards Sion. Yes. And if I'm not telling the truth, why I'm here to talk about those shitty things you called evidence. He replied and then shook his head as he threw back all the photos on the center of the table. So if you are telling the truth, I think there's another group of Rouges that attacked other small packs in the attempt to annex it. Hirre thought as she saw the reaction of Sion toward the photos. Because long years ago, there was a wolf that without a pack met a bad guy. They were thought to be Rouges and unfortunately, all of them were become Rouges. and they were thinking that it might be the reason why there were unknown rouges that attacked some small packs. What if you Sion help us? You can able to provide the information about the dark side rouges. Lucio suggested and the king agreed to it. I can accept your suggestions but on one condition. I want Hirre to come with me. Sion said and everyone was surprised. They could talk for a while thinking about the words they would say. They averted their gaze away from Hirre and looked at Alejandro. He was pale and weak. And even his wolf was still in a deep sleep. Hirre saw the situation of Alejandro. She thought that she needed to help Alejandro first to gain strength again. Don't worry Alejandro. I will be asked my grandfather if he can summon the witch doctor if he could help Alejandro to gain strength. I think you don't have to ask that. Because the doctor is here. The king said as he saw Mr. Lionheart coming. When the doctor came, Alejandro asked him something. Mr. Lionheart, are you sure that Claire lost her power? Alejandro asked, to ensure the safety of Hirre in the hands of Claire. Yeah. Actually, she doesn't have any wolves in the first place. And when she lost her witch power, she is like a normal human. Mr. Lionheart replied and everyone was shocked as they heard the information about Claire. So if is the truth, I will agree to your request. And because Claire got the punishment she deserves, Sion will take her to his pack. Alejandro said and Sion widened his eyes in surprise. He happily stood and thanked Alejandro. So if it's your plan, I will take her in my pack, Sion said and he quickly took Claire. And when the meeting was over, Hirre was still sitting on the chair. Her reaction was saw by Severus. Why? Severus asked and he sat near Hirre. Please tell Alejandro to forgive Claire. She gets her punishment and it's enough. Hirre replied and Severus nodded his head. He stood and followed Alejandro out to the room and Hirre left inside. When everyone was gone, Hirre took her phone and dialed her grandpa's number. Grandpa? Can I ask something?